Madam Chairman.
Okay, welcome everyone. Happy Monday morning to you. For those of you that are Bills fans, I'm sorry. I'm as depressed as all the rest of you, but we're going to try to get through this and move forward with some good bills today. So our first bill for consideration today is Senate File. Oh yes, let's take roll. Gosh, I'm so excited to get started on this bill. I forgot about roll call. Roll call.
Madam Chairman, for Senate Education, January 27th, 2025, Senator Brennan.
Aye.
Senator Olson.
Nay.
Oh, sorry, present.
Senator Rothfuss.
Here.
Senator Scott.
Excused.
Chairwoman Schuler.
Here,
You have a quorum.
sadly.
It's Monday morning.
We'll manage. All right, now we'll go ahead and get started with Senate File 86, Alternative Teaching Certificate. And our sponsor is here today. Welcome, Senator Larson. What would you like to say about this bill?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and other senators up there. Thank you for letting me speak on this bill. It's Senate File 86. I will hopefully be brief. The bill's pretty brief. Just a little history. We passed this in 2023 through the Senate pretty easily. It got stuck over in the House Education Committee, and the big reason was we were told that the Wyoming Professional Teachers Standard Board could do this through rulemaking. I've given them 2 years to do that, and I don't think they've succeeded at doing that yet. So I kind of want to push back and kind of force them to do it. So that's the whole idea. This is the Alternative Teaching Certificate. The alternative teaching preparation programs serve as an invaluable tool for states addressing the growing teacher shortage. These programs are not designed to replace the traditional pathways, but rather to expand access to individuals who may lack opportunities to participate in conventional preparation programs. By completing existing pathways, alternative programs enhance the pool of qualified teachers and provide schools across the state with much-needed staffing solutions. Senate File 86 acknowledges the critical role alternative teacher preparation programs can play in Wyoming's education system. I'm speaking kind of about American Board. It's a nationally recognized program founded in 2001 by the U.S. Department of Education. It exemplifies the potential of such initiatives. It's currently operating in 14 states, including our neighboring states, Idaho, Montana, and Nebraska. The American Board has certified 20,000 teachers nationwide. This program offers a flexible, affordable, and accessible pathway to teacher certification. I know of I think two other companies that offer this. I don't specifically have their names right now. I'd have to ask somebody for those. I had them on my notes 2 years ago. American Board is specifically tailored to individuals who already hold a bachelor's degree and are looking to transition into teaching. Its flexibility is particularly beneficial for career changers, military veterans and their spouses, stay-at-home parents re-entering the workforce, and paraprofessionals and substitutes seeking full licensure. The program's online self-paced and competency-based design allows candidates to balance their studies with their other responsibilities, with most of them completing it in 7 to 10 months at a cost around $1,900. The average age of candidates seeking a certification is around 39 years old. So gives you an idea. It's kind of for those that are want to change their career. By emphasizing both subject area expertise and effective teaching standards, it ensures candidates are prepared to excel in the classroom. So I will kind of go through the bill here real quick. In section 1, we are creating new paragraphs in statute 21-2802, little a, little double I. This In 21-2802, it gives the powers and duties for the board and teacher certification, suspension, and revocations. We go into section A, the board shall promulgate rules and regulations, and go to little double I. In addition to the AI above, this actions, the board shall be, by rule and regulations, provide for, and it's section D, alternative certification of teachers that requires a baccalaureate degree, from an I can hardly read, I mean glasses, from an accredited college or university and successfully completion of an alternative certification program that meets the following. It operates in not less than 5 states, has operated an alternative teacher certification program for not less than 10 years, requires passage of a subject area and pedagogy examination to receive certification, and then it goes on to 4, provide proof that the program is certified not less than 10,000 teachers, and then E, issuance of an alternative certification or subparagraph D of this paragraph shall be limited to the subject areas and grade levels successfully completed by the applicant. I have a couple amendments that I would like to suggest. And if that's okay, Madam Chairwoman.
Please go ahead.
I would do that now. I would be on page 2, line 22, and it's in triple I. It says requires passage of subject area, and I would cross out and then it would be pedagogy examination, comma, U.S. Constitution examination, and Wyoming Constitution examination to receive certification and. So I'm including the requirement to pass the U.S. Constitution examination and the Wyoming Constitution examination because that's a requirement currently in the statutes. So I want to make sure this program would do that prior to a student getting their certification, because it will be required and they'll have to pass that. The company said that's no problem, that other states require stuff like that. And then on page 3, I would like to insert on like line A, F, the alternative certification can be completed before being requested by a school district. So currently, I've read through some of their programs where they have to actually have a school district request a person to apply for an alternative certification. And I would like it so the student could do that prior to a school district requesting that, so they don't have to specifically go to a certain school district. I would like them to be able to go statewide, so that would be my suggestion. That pretty much concludes my testimony, and I'm ready for questions.
Ashley, did you happen to get both of those potential amendments by chance?
Madam Chairman, I'm reading the transcript right now, so no, but I'm working on it.
Would you like to have him repeat those just to be safe?
I think I got the first one, Madam Chairman, just inserting U.S. Constitution examination and Wyoming Constitution examination in the list on line 22, on page 2. And then, yeah, if you want to repeat the amendment on page 3, that would be great.
Yeah, it'd be on line 8, large F. The alternative certification can be completed before being requested by a school district. The wording may not be quite right, but I hope the idea is there.
Perfect. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Okay, great. Questions for Senator Larson? Yes, go ahead, Senator Rolfes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. It's unclear from this, but how many hours of actual class time
What
work
I've
has to be
read,
done? Go ahead.
Madam
Senator?
Chairwoman, Senator Rothfuss, what I've read through some of the submitted stuff from the American Board, it usually takes around 6 to 7 months, I think is what it takes. And it's usually a course in the evenings, and they would be doing it online.
Madam Chairman, follow up?
Yes, go ahead.
What about student teaching, which is obviously an important part of our teacher training? Is there a vehicle for that, or is there an expectation that there would be half a year of teacher training associated with the certification as well of student teaching?
Senator Larson?
Madam Chairwoman and Senator Rothfuss, I think the intent is that if you got chosen by a school, you would obviously be under the administration there to perform your duties for a year before you would get the certification. So I think that would probably be where you would be doing your substitute teaching, but you actually would have a class, and you wouldn't have the certificate yet. I don't know what you'd want to call it, temporary.
So, Madam Chairman, so there is no student teaching requirement with this program, with these programs? That's not a part of it. And I mean, when we have our educators going through the more traditional route of getting their teaching degree, part of that is typically going to be a student teaching aspect. And, I think certainly in the early years in particular, that's going to be an important part of the training, where you have a master teacher working with you, and you're working with that teacher to learn the pedagogy, classroom management, and the real life of it, right? Instead of the theory, it's the hands-on real life. Is there any requirement that these programs, and I don't see it in the statute, but it doesn't sound like they engage with any student-teacher training, is that right?
Senator Larson?
Madam Chairwoman and Senator Rothfuss, I do not think that is part of the curriculum. They do take the pedagogy examination and such and study that. I would like to leave this to others that will testify, so I don't think so. Like I said before, the certification wouldn't be final, I don't think, until you've gone through, I would guess, at least a year at the school district, and you're satisfied, the superintendent and the administration in the school that you're capable.
Okay. And one other question. So the University of Wyoming, I know, has developed a teacher training program, which is similar to this, remote largely, and trying to accommodate these exact types of people. I was wondering if you'd had any engagement with the College of Education and talked through that program and compared it with this proposal, because that's relatively new. I honestly don't know if it was fully implemented in 2023. So I was curious if that was something that you looked into.
Senator?
Madam Chairwoman, Senator Rothfuss, I did not check into that. I hope they're here and they can testify on that.
Okay.
I'd be open to any type of, way to get some more teachers, especially for those that have gone through a bachelor degree, like an accountant or something that's been out there in the workforce for, 20 years or whatever, and they're kind of tired of what they're doing. Why not let them go into the school district and teach what they know, especially in the math. They'd be good in math.
And Madam Chairman, on that last point, Senator Larson, in my mind, and obviously I've taught at the university for a lot of years, there's a big difference between teaching near adults and teaching K-5. And then there's obviously a big transition there. And I don't know if you've ever hung out with groups of middle schoolers, but it's a weird experience all by itself. So the pedagogical training associated with the teaching and development of children is very different from my background is in physics and engineering. So I would feel very comfortable teaching seniors in high school and teaching them calculus and things that I'm expert in. I wouldn't begin to know, based on my skills, what I would do with a bunch of third graders, right? And I know math better than they do, but I don't know that that would be helpful. And I guess I'm curious, is this mostly targeted at this concept targeted towards the high school, more career-oriented, where, as you mentioned, you've got somebody who's been an accountant for a lot of years and they want to teach accounting, and teaching that in a high school setting would make a lot of sense. Then you want to, your core knowledge is the accounting, and then you want to bring in the pedagogical understanding, versus all of your training was student development because you're an early childhood educator or an elementary school educator. And, you know, is that something that, and I have no idea what this American Board actually does, whether they do all grades, but is there any selective certification for that? Does it have to be consistent with what you previously learned, or would you anticipate that we would have people coming back and going through this program and then teaching second grade?
Senator?
Madam Chairwoman and Senator Rothfuss, I think it's open to all sorts of areas, especially in the elementary. You may have a substitute teacher that is taught in the elementary or such, and wants to go into elementary age kids to teach. Or you may have had some teacher helpers or such. I don't know what their actual word name is for that, but I think it could be all of the above. Obviously, they're going to go through, like we said before, the pedagogy test and learn how to teach the students, I guess. But you know, I substituted in elementary stuff and through my school district, and I learned that, yeah, it's very, very difficult to control those kindergarten kids and those first graders, and you have to have the talent to do it. But I think it ought to be open for pretty much any, especially at the elementary level.
Okay, thank you.
Question, Senator Wilson?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just want to jump back to Senator Rothfuss's question about student teaching. I went to the American Board's website, Senator Lorson, and it does require a completion of student teaching. Just so we're clear, the basic parameters of what it requires is a bachelor's degree from an accredited college or university, must pass a criminal background check. You have to pass the professional teaching knowledge exam, that's the exam, the general exam, and then a subject matter area exam as well, and then complete your student teaching. So those are the basic requirements of the program. Wouldn't you agree?
Madam Chairwoman, Senator Olson, thank you for specifying all that. I should have had that written down and I'll get better prepared. But yes, I think they do a very good job.
Other questions? Senator Scott?
Madam Chairman, question on the top of page 3, lines 1 and 2. You want proof the program is certified not less than 10,000 teachers. It does look to me like this is designed to bring in people that have passed alternate certification in other states. And I would speculate that many states are going to customize their program that they're using just a little bit. So would this requirement, why is it there? And would it preclude coming from many of the states where they got slightly individualized programs, but they don't come close to having 10,000 teachers that have gone through them? You know, we could never meet that standard.
Senator Larson?
Madam Chairwoman and Senator Scott, I guess I'm not sure on the question. I think this is a requirement for a business or a program that is asking the state if they can come into the state and get a program for alternative teacher certification. This would be just that let's just take, for instance, the American Board. they've said they've certified 20,000 teachers throughout the states. And I think that would just be the requirement for the company or whatever, to just say, yeah, we've certified, over 10,000. Maybe 10,000 is not the right number. I think we're just trying to protect us from, I would say, fly-by-night programs or whatever. I don't know if that's the correct words, but that's the intent.
Yeah, go ahead, Senator Rothfuss.
Following up on that, yeah, I had the same concerns that Senator Scott had. I don't know why the magnitude of a program correlates to the quality of a program. I mean, how many they've done in the past doesn't necessarily mean that they have a great program. It seems if this were moving forward, that the appropriate approach would be to evaluate the programs and allow for those programs that provide a high-quality educational experience and rigorous requirements, and that most of the numbers, I mean, like the Romanet 3 says requires passage of subject area pedagogy examination, U.S. Constitution exam. I would include in that actually student teaching, if it were me, but you know what I mean. You're getting at qualifications of what it is, and is then approved by the board as a rigorous program consistent with their rules, and that seems, in my view, less important than how many states they operate in, because that just asserts that other states all made great decisions and we should follow them. I'm never eager to do that. I mean, it's possible. What are your thoughts?
Senator?
Madam Chairwoman, Senator Rothfuss, I think in the Enrolled Act, no, Engrossed Act that went on in 2023, I think those items were deleted, and that would be fine.
Were they?
Yeah, that would be fine with me.
Okay, I'll have to look at that. You said 2023?
Yep, 2023. I think they took out the operates in 5 states.
Thank you.
Other questions
and
for
the-
Senator Larson?
And the 10 years, and also the other section we were just discussing on provides proof of the 10,000 teachers being certified. So no problem with that on my end.
One of the questions that I had, sir, I basically was interested in their examination. I just wondered if you had any idea how it would measure up with the praxis that most of your teachers have to take in order to get their certification. Any idea on that?
Madam Chairwoman, I do not have any idea on that. I think there is a spokesman, maybe on Zoom, I hope, that can kind of answer some of these questions.
Yeah, I see that we have somebody from the PTSB that will provide some testimony, because I have a couple of questions for them as well. So any other questions for the good senator? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, anyone in the room that would like to provide some testimony on Senate File 86, please come forward. No, you go, no, you go, no. Everybody go. Welcome, please introduce yourselves.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Brian Farmer. I'm the Executive Director for Wyoming School Boards Association. With me today is the newest member of our team, Nick Bellick, and I'm going to just share a couple of general concerns with you and then turn it over to Nick, because Nick, his background prior to coming to us lends some specific expertise to this area. The first thing I'd like to say is I appreciate Senator Larson's interest in certifying alternative teachers. That's absolutely a part of what's necessary in today's environment. Right now, the majority of folks that do that through the Professional Teaching Standards Board. There are a number of programs, a number of ways that folks are able to get alternative certifications through PTSB, and the majority of Wyoming school districts do look to that. Either actually use or at least explore the possibility of using people that have alternate certifications. Madam Chair, primarily concerned with this bill is when you get to page 2 and then on to page 3, as you know, Wyoming doesn't allow special legislation. We don't allow legislation that is for a specific entity or a specific purpose. This bill doesn't come out and say that this is for American Board, but Madam Chair, when you look at page 2, lines 14 through page 3, lines 2, each of the characteristics are drafted in a certain way that it describes only one entity. It describes the American Board. So the operating in not less than 5 states, operated in alternative teacher certification program for not less than 10 years, requires passage of subject area and pedagogy to receive certification, and provides proof that the program is certified not less than 10,000 teachers. That is specifically designed for American Board, and so that creates some concern for us as to what kind of quality of alternative certification we might be looking at. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Bellick to talk more specifically.
Go ahead, Mr. Bellick.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Nick Bellack. I am, as Brian said, with the Wyoming School Boards Association, and it's a pleasure to be up here to talk about this bill. As Brian said, this bill is boilerplate. I will go into my background. For the last 6 or so years, I was at the national level with a nonprofit testing company to follow many of these proceedings. And I have seen this bill in countless states. I have experience with 34 states across the nation. And most times, this bill is unanimously voted down for several reasons. The heartburn, and I'll go through some of the heartburn that many of the states have had, goes with, I think, what Senator Rothfuss was talking about, the actual background, the pedagogical knowledge. What does it mean to be a professional teacher, and how much experience is necessary before that person gets to the classroom? So with that, the experience is probably the most notable thing that a professional teaching standards board, the Department of Education, will go to first. Secondly, goes into, as Brian was saying, the company itself, putting itself into a mandate that gets a monopoly for the state. There's an obvious winner, I think, the way that this bill is written. There's also a lot of information that's not necessarily quite there, especially if you start to look a little bit below the surface. 14 states in 24 years is not that many states. The way that the states use this, the ABCTE, is also varied. So when we say that there are many states that are using this, some states are using it only for high school. Some states are using this for both high school and elementary education. We have some other heartburn that the company lost its nonprofit status in 2022, yet it still remains that it is a nonprofit public serving entity. We also have, as we've kind of looked at this, there is really no student teaching requirement on the site itself. That's really specific to the state to add in those. I'd also like to talk about data, because in order for the test to be a valid and reliable and fair instrument, there's a lot of data that needs to be taken. We can see this on many different national tests for professional. We can see that in the NCLEX, we can see this in the BAR test. There's much data and psychometrics that are taken to ensure that the test maintains its use. A question I would have is, have we done a crosswalk to see that, does the test actually assess Wyoming standards? I don't think that there's potentially a crosswalk that exists to have that. I can see that there's many other entities around the nation as well that have tried to get a lot of this information from this corporation, but have failed to get the information. We also, and I'd be remiss not to say that education in Wyoming is proud of its status as best in the West. And our test scores, our national ranking does not lie. The 14 states, if you look, who has adopted this, are likely in the mid to low range of performing states when we look at national scales of who's actually performing. I also want to talk about an unfunded mandate as we go back to the profession and what's necessary to receive a professional license. If we have a person that perhaps goes through this program, and I've heard stories of people making it through this program in a month and a half to get to the classroom. If we have that, and then a professional teacher is paired, I am a teacher by trade, still licensed with the Professional Teaching Standards Board. I taught 2nd and 3rd grade. And I will tell you, reading and teaching reading is rocket science. And if a person comes in that is my teaching partner, and not only do I have to teach my kids, but I have to teach my teaching partner, that person how to teach instructional design, lesson planning, classroom management, child psychology, even educational law, that is an unfunded mandate that's going to happen to our teachers in the classroom. And lastly, and I'll just talk about that, what does this do to the profession? When we talk about a profession, the definition of a profession is a paid occupation, especially one that involves prolonged training and formal qualification. This is not prolonged training. You may have formal qualifications that you can issue something, but there is much that a person will not have before they meet students, which is Wyoming's truly our best, our resource. So with that, I will just kind of hand it back over to you for any questions, but I do want to finish off by saying that I have seen this many, many times. I know that the PTSB likely is online right now to talk to you about the flexibility that already exists, especially with regards to the PIC permit, to get folks that are qualified, that do have this background, and get them into a classroom in a specific area. And I think that flexibility really kind of creates, I'm not necessarily sure that this is even necessary with all the good work that the PTSB has done in the last several years. So with that, I'll stand for any questions, and I appreciate the opportunity to testify.
Questions for Mr. Bellick? Senator Rothfuss?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I pulled up the bill from 2023. I don't know if you've looked at that recently. It was amended in this committee and dramatically streamlined, I'll say, into a single paragraph. And then that ended up moving forward, the engrossed form, over to the House. Took out a lot of the concerns. I don't know if it took out all of the concerns, but it looks like you haven't had a chance to refresh yourself on the 2023 version. I was going to ask if that was something that you were more comfortable with. It ended up passing the Senate unanimously. I don't think there was much debate on it. And, reading the one paragraph that's left based on amendment from the Education Committee at the time, it just creates a D paragraph and replaces all of this. And the D paragraph indicates that alternative certification of teachers that requires a bachelor's degree from an accredited college or university and successful completion of an alternative certification program approved by the board that at a minimum requires passage of a subject area and pedagogy examination. Issuance of this alternative certification shall only be for the subject areas and grade levels successfully completed by the applicant. That then becomes the entirety of the paragraph and the bill. So wondering what your thoughts were on that. It seems like, at least in my mind, it alleviates about half of the concerns. I don't know what your thoughts are with the other half.
Mr. Bellick?
Madam Chairman, Senator Rothfuss, I'll speak to that quickly, and then I think perhaps Mr. Farmer would like to take a follow-up if that's okay with that. I think this paragraph potentially goes it the right way, but I would go back to saying and requesting some testimony from PTSB to say what is in this paragraph that PTSB can't already do. And not only that, perhaps it's a quicker pathway rather than having to go through all of this to actually be licensed in a specific area to get into the classroom for those specific grade levels.
Mr. Scott, or excuse me, Senator Scott?
Chairman, couple of questions. One to Senator Ruffus. Am I right in thinking that that bill did not pass the House, died over there?
Senator?
Madam Chairman, Senator Scott, yes, it's my understanding that it died in the House Joint Education Committee, so we sent over unanimous engrossed version, and that's where it ended up.
And that leads, Madam Chairman,
Yes, go ahead.
question for the witnesses. You know, I've heard complaints over the years about our alternate certification program is not adequate. We need to do something better. And I'm looking for a remedy. I gather you don't like some things about this remedy. So what should we do to fix it? Should we go back to what we passed before? Should we, which I think we could use this bill as a vehicle to do that? Should we bypass the PTSB and go to let the school districts accept alternate certifications? You know, they used to do that, all that sort of thing, the certification work way back when. What's the best approach in your mind to take to solve the problem we've got?
Mr. Bellick or Mr. Farmer, whichever one would like to answer that.
Madam Chair, Senator Scott, that's a great question. I think everybody today is focused on alternative certification. What's the best path forward? I would say that when we have run into problems or concerns with the Professional Teaching Standards Board, we found them willing to work with school districts. And so there today is some back and forth between a district and the Professional Teaching Standards Board, where the district is saying, hey, look, we've got this person from industry, we've got this person that we would like to teach. How can we get them qualified, certified to do so? Some of the requirements that are in place today from Professional Teaching Standards Board are like durations of those licenses. How long can you have an alternative certification? What do you have to do while on an alternative certification? Generally, we've not found complaint about that. So I think we found a lot of negotiation with PTSB over how can we get there. I think the fundamental question comes down to what else is needed. What is it that we need from a person from industry who's coming into the classroom? And so today we've talked about subject area knowledge assessed by some kind of test. We've talked about perhaps pedagogical knowledge, the science of teaching. And we've talked about having the substitute teacher. And so we've looked at not just the PTSB version, but the Department of Education has worked on apprenticeships and worked on other models to say, how can we get people there faster? So we've taken people that have been working as paraprofessionals in schools, and we're working at getting those folks licensed faster. And so a number of school districts are piloting those to see if that approach is a viable approach. And so I think we have taken several steps that have gone in that direction. I think that the version that was the engrossed version out of the Senate gives sort of that broad parameter. You might want to add a teaching, student teaching requirement or something like that to that list. You might add, as Senator Larson said, the Constitution knowledge requirements to that list. But I think the alternative things that are in place have been working so far. We've not heard a lot of the concerns that what's there now isn't working. We've heard initial frustrations, but we've found the Professional Teaching Standards Board willing to work with the districts in order to get people there.
Senator Olson?
Yeah, Madam Chairman. So what, help me understand, I want to go back to the 2023 version because I think that is more of an in-between that we can probably get to an agreement on, but help me understand what would be the negative to adopting that legislation. So all we're saying is that the PTSB board may recognize an alternative certification program? And what would be bad about that?
Mr. Farmer?
Madam Chair, just having looked at that quickly, I would say that that's not concerning, because alternative pathways could be appropriate pathways. Permissive pathways, I think, allow people to pursue that and allow districts to find the right qualified people for their classrooms. Only thing I can tell you is I haven't sat down and really looked at it, other than just quickly here.
Right.
Quick look. I think that's far better path than what you have in front of you.
Okay, thank you.
Follow up? Good.
That's good.
Okay, good. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, gentlemen, for your testimony. Anyone else would like to testify on this bill? Welcome, please introduce yourself.
Good morning, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Jeff Daugherty. I'm here on behalf of Cicero Action and FGA Action today. Don't have my name tag, but on offer of proof, I'll assure you I represent those organizations. But just wanted to first thank the committee for considering this bill. My comments are going to be very brief, Madam Chairman. I really want to thank the sponsor, Senator Larson. One thing I appreciate about him is it's not enough for him to admire the problem. He can always be counted on to try to make it better. I would tell you that this is not the only path to providing teachers. It's an alternative path, and I would like the committee to keep that in mind. And I would also remind the committee that it is a constant challenge to find teachers in the state of Wyoming for a variety of reasons. And this is a way for this state to tap into the phenomenal resources that we have available to us. Just sitting here in the audience, I was thinking about people I knew in this state who are experts in AI, experts in aerospace, experts in mining, experts in agriculture. And to be able to tap those individuals and to get them into the classroom, I think is a blessing to our students. You know, I've been assigned by the superintendent previously in my career to take over classes when teachers weren't able to be there. And I know firsthand what Senator Rothfuss is talking about in terms of classroom management. I was also a football coach for one of the districts here, and I used a lot of the coaching skills that I had developed in order to get compliance, and we made it through. But I would tell you that we stand in support of this bill, and I think that we would also support the alternative from 2023. So if that's something that's more amenable to this body, we would support that as well. So Madam Chair, unless there are any questions, I'm going to conclude my comments there.
Any questions for Mr. Daugherty? Okay, thank you so much. Anyone else would like to testify today? Please come forward. Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Madam Chair, Boyd Brown, Wyoming Association of School Administrators, Executive Director. Again, I want to thank you and appreciate Senator Larson bringing something forward, looking at this. I want to put it into a little perspective to start out with. We have a great education system in Wyoming. We should be proud of it. The legislature has done a lot of things to help us with that. Our YTOP assessment is rigorous. I'm glad that it's rigorous. It's not one of the easier tests across the state. When we look at our apples to apples assessment that we give out there, which is the NAEP assessment across all the states, we're number 5 in the nation. We're number 1 west of the Mississippi. We should be proud of that. Of all the states that make all of their students take the ACT test, Wyoming ranked number 1 this year. We should be proud of that. And when we're doing that, we should also be proud of the teachers in our classroom. Their quality, they're what we want. And I'm just thinking about the bill that passed in '23. I think that was a much broader bill. Our Professional Teaching and Standards Board has done a great job working with us. They allow us as superintendents to work with the people that we hire on alternative certificates so that we can do the professional development that we need for each one of those. I can tell you that Rex Hayhurst was an automotive teacher for me in Campbell County when I was the principal and the superintendent up there. He didn't have a bachelor's degree. He went through trade school, but was great. We worked with him on his pedagogy, we worked with him on management. He always got the best out of his kids and sent his kids either out of his classroom to work in the community or on to trade schools to do other things. So I think the Professional and Teaching Standard Board has done a great job of listening to districts, working with districts, and allowing us to do alternative placements. I know that the University of Wyoming is also working with us to do some apprenticeships and different things like that. I don't know if we need legislation to say we need something easier for teachers. I think we want to try to keep the quality there, allow us to work with the Professional Teaching and Standards Board. They have been very good at allowing some flexibility, knowing that we have some difficulty. Some districts in their special ed departments have emergency certificates for a lot of different people because it's very difficult to get special education people. And I'm just not sure that we need this. The 23 bill that was engrossed out of the Senate, I think that's much better. It's not geared at just one company. So with that, I'll be quiet and answer questions for you.
Questions for Mr. Brown? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else would like to testify? Oh, Senator Scott?
Chairman, I've got a question that's really not specifically for Mr. Brown, but it's State Department of Education. We're hearing about the comparison with NAEP. Would it be possible for the State Department of Education to get us a summary comparison showing how we compare in all the various things that NAEP does test for in recent years?
Mr. Shaner?
Madam Chairman, committee members, Dickey Shaner, Department of Ed, Senator Scott, yes, we can, and the new NAEP results will be announced nationally this week, so we'll have updated information.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay.
Madam Chairman.
Yeah, question?
Well,
Senator Olson?
while we have Mr. Shaner in the chair, I am just curious if the superintendent has a position on this bill, and if you know if the superintendent had a position on the 2023 bill.
Mr. Shaner?
Madam Chair, through you, Senator Olson, she does not have a position on this bill, and I don't recall if she did last year on the other one.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Shaner? Okay, run while you can. Anyone else who would like to come up and testify on this bill? Welcome. Even though we know you, please introduce yourself.
Madam Chairwoman, members of the committee, Tate Mullen, Government Relations Director for the Wyoming Education Association. I too want to thank Senator Larson for bringing this issue forward. We know that our recruitment and retention is a significant issue in the state of Wyoming. And I think having good conversations about what means we have to bolster our pipeline are always conversations that are worth having. I do want to point out a couple of things. I echo a lot of the concerns that have already been raised, so I won't belabor those points. I do want to note that aside from being adequate and equitable, the Campbell 2 decision noted that our education system should also be visionary and unsurpassed. We know that the quality of educator has a direct and positive correlation to student outcomes. And that when we're having these conversations about alternative paths, we should never be willing to sacrifice the quality of our educators for an easier route. I think one of the things that I do want to belabor is that, you know, we've talked about this difficulty in recruiting our educators and that this might be a pathway for them. I'll echo the Wyoming School Board Association's concern that this does appear to be an unfunded mandate for our educators who are already struggling and overworked, who don't have the time to complete what they need to complete. And from an educator's perspective, if you have this unfunded mandate, the idea that you're trying to address that recruitment and retention, you might actually have the opposite impact. It might drive teachers away if all of a sudden they're required to be teaching this alternative licensure educator in their classroom. Additionally, the concerns of pedagogy in the classroom management piece, I think one of the things that we need to take into account We've seen a significant rise in student behaviors within our classrooms. This makes this component of a certification and licensure incredibly important. Again, to Senator Rothfuss's point is that, you walk into a classroom full of 7th and 8th graders, and that is a very unique thing if you have never experienced it before. And then you add these increased student behavior problems. If you don't have that, that not only spells difficulty for that teacher and then whatever classroom teacher is there, it's going to impact the students as well. So with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Questions for Mr. Mullen? Okay, thank you so much. Anyone else in the room would like to testify? Okay, I know we have at least one or maybe a couple of online people, so who do you want to let in first, Ashley?
Madam Chairman, we have both Brendan O'Connor with the PTSB and Isabella Welch with the American Board. I'm hoping one or both of them is listening right now because neither one of them have their hands raised. So I'm just gonna, there we go. There's Mr. O'Connor.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Chairwoman Schuler. My name is Brendan O'Connor, and I am the Executive Director of the Wyoming Professional Teaching Standards Board. And I appreciate the opportunity to come to you virtually to provide my testimony this week. And I appreciate the committee's time and engagement in this discussion. The PTSB has provided a lot more flexibility in the 6 years that I have been with the agency in getting people who have not completed a traditional route program to education into the classroom. There's been many examples given of aerospace and AI and accounting and so forth. PTSB for over 30 years has allowed people from industry into classrooms through our professional industry and career permit. And so that's still a viable option. I've provided some documentation. We currently have nearly 300 people, 285 who have an active professional industry career permit in our classrooms as of about a week and a half ago when I last ran that report. So we have many
285.
that we can get through industry into the route. That was one of the concerns that our board raised is, that argument has already been met. We don't need this particular program in specific, since it is the bill as written does specifically gear towards that one provider. Other concerns that the board has expressed is that it is not an accredited program. While even in the bill, they want their candidates to complete an accredited college program to know that their degree was valid, they themselves do not want to be accredited. Some of their competitors who we have used, and we use a number of alternative providers, alternative certification providers across the nation, are accredited. Some of those at a national level, some of those at a state level. There are many states that provide school districts the opportunity to create programs, build up their teachers and their workforce locally. The state accredits those programs. We have had many candidates come into Wyoming and have allowed them in because of that accreditation. Someone else has vetted this program. They know that there's some quality there. This particular program does not include any student teaching. It is only a test preparation program. They send materials to the candidates who can study it. Your $2,000 that pays for the program goes towards those test prep programs or test materials, preparation materials, pays for the testing. Once you pass those, then you're eligible to go to the state that they operate in and then get a temporary license. I would counter Senator Larson's indication that we have not produced any rules for that. I provided materials to the board to the committee about rules that we passed in 2023 that were signed by the governor just about a year ago into 2024 that would allow, if this particular provider was accredited, this would be a non-issue. They would be allowed in. We would be working with them. We'd be accepting their candidates, and we would be fine with it. Another concern that the Professional Teaching Standards Board has is because there is no student teaching, you are getting a baptism by fire once you get hired into the classroom, and many others have commented about that. Our board was very concerned that putting special education students and elementary education students in that might not be in their best interest since they are the most vulnerable population. Our board was, in the rules as you have in front of you, shows that we're more willing to allow those at the secondary grades. Again, many times we're getting professionals coming in from other careers, they're career changers, bringing in that expertise. It's more appropriate at the little bit older age level, although you still have the student misbehaviors and misconduct issues, the classroom management, the engagement in the materials that just sitting at home reading through your PDF of how to pass the test is not going to provide you. The senator, in his own words, said he wanted to force PTSB to do it. And that is the modus operandi of the American Board. And that is why they are only in 14 states. They have lost their approval in Arkansas. They were approved back in 2023, and in that meantime, they have lost that approval. They are, according to my counterpart in Oklahoma, they are dying in Oklahoma. They have only had a couple of candidates complete the program, and even over 15 years, they've only produced about 5 to 6 candidates get licensed in that time annually. That would not address any real teacher shortage. Pennsylvania also, it's a larger program, about 20 candidates per year in the 20 years that they've been. Talked to my counterpart in Idaho. They initially have a lot of candidates who have completed the program and have that certification, but have not taken the next step to become fully licensed. And it's less than, well, it's about 42% of all of the candidates in Idaho who have gone through this particular program. Only about 42% have gone on the next step to become fully licensed. Of those, only 22 have remained in the classroom. Out of about 700, only 22 have remained in the classroom after 7 years. And so there's high attrition throughout all the other years going forward. So in sum, again, the board feels that we have allowed them an opportunity to come in. We do work with many accredited alternative providers who are not always associated with institutions of higher learning. We do accept those a little more readily in previous rules that have been established and longstanding with the rise in non-higher ed associated alternative certification programs. There are accredited programs. We have used those, and we are meeting the needs as best as we can. And I appreciate the kind words from the School Boards Association and the Superintendents Association about the flexibility and working with those candidates. And that's my goal, and that is the goal of the board as well, to provide quality instructors in front of the Wyoming students. And with that, Chairwoman Schuler, I would stand for questions.
Sorry. Questions for Mr. O'Connor? Okay, thank you for your testimony. Thank you for the information you sent out as well. Anyone else online would like to testify?
Madam Chairman, it does look like Isabel Welch, is ready to go, so she will be joining the room.
Go ahead and bring her in. Please introduce yourself.
Good morning. My name is Isabel Welch, and I am the Director of Government Affairs for American Board.
Okay, let's hear what you have to say about this bill.
So American Board is one of the organizations that would qualify to operate in Wyoming under Senate File 86. And really, I'm here to kind of give you some history and some information about how American Board's program works. So we were founded by the U.S. Department of Education in 2001, and we have been a national leader in alternative teacher certification for over 2 decades. We currently operate in 14 states, including many of Wyoming's neighbors, like Idaho, Nebraska, and Montana, and we've certified 20,000 teachers nationwide. We provide local career professionals who already hold a bachelor's degree in a subject other than education a quick and affordable pathway to teacher licensure. The people who utilize our program are local members of your community who don't have the time, the money, or the access to complete a traditional certification program. So American Board participants are on average 39 years old and generally fall into one of 4 categories. So the first category would be career changers. So these are your accountants who want to teach math, your journalists who decide to teach English. Our second category is military veterans and their spouses. American Board offers a significant discount to military veterans and their spouses, and we assist them as they are leaving their service and transitioning back to civilian life. Our third category, if you will, would be stay-at-home parents who are transitioning back into the workforce. So these are people who got their bachelor's degree and then decided to stay home and raise their children. Now that their children are a little bit older, they've decided that they want to get back into the workforce, and they have decided that teaching is a good fit for them. And our last group would be substitute teachers and paraprofessionals. These are people who are already in your schools, some of them teaching on a substitute license. We also have a lot of people who are teaching on emergency licenses who are looking for that full licensure. American Board's program costs around $1,900 and takes about a year to complete depending on subject area. Our program consists of coursework and exams covering subject area and pedagogy. And of particular note, half of American Board's program is pedagogy, and candidates must prove their competency by passing a pedagogy and competency exam before they complete the program. All of our content and pedagogy exams are aligned to nationally accepted standards. For example, our pedagogy exam is aligned to the national INTASC standards, and all of our subject area exams are aligned to nationally accepted subject area standards and the corresponding praxis exam. American Board and other alternative teacher preparation programs provide an invaluable tool for states in addressing the growing teacher shortage. Alternative programs like ours are not intended to replace traditional programs, but are a way to engage individuals looking to enter the workforce who may not have access to a traditional preparation program. In conclusion, I urge you to recognize the positive impact alternative teacher certification programs can have on addressing the teacher shortages in Wyoming, and in providing a diverse and experienced professionals the opportunity to contribute to your education system. Thousands of schools across the country rely on their American Board trained teachers, and Senate File 86 can help address the evolving needs of your communities. Thank you, and I'm happy to stand for questions.
Any questions for Ms. Welch? Okay, Senator Rothfuss.
We were having a little discussion about the student teaching, and it was a little unclear what takes place for student teaching requirements. Can you talk about that briefly?
Ms. Welch?
Absolutely, thank you, Senator Rothfuss, and thank you, Madam Chairman. So our program does not require any traditional student teaching, that being unpaid while you are still participating in the program. Generally, the way that we operate is we work with districts, and once a candidate has completed the program and received their license, they work through a district-based mentorship program. So most of the states that we operate in have that program anyway, and so candidates are required to participate as they go through that program. But our requirements do vary from state to state. Sometimes there is not a mentorship requirement. Sometimes it is a school-based decision. But what we have found is that schools and districts really know what they need best to help prepare their teachers. And so we like to leave those decisions in their hands.
Other questions for Ms. Welch? Okay, thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
Anyone else online, Ashley?
No, Madam Chairman, that's everybody.
Okay, all right, we'll go ahead and close the public testimony. Committee, what's your pleasure on this bill?
Move the bill.
Okay, bill's been moved by good Senator Olson. Any amendments or?
Yes, Madam
Yes,
Chairman.
please go ahead.
I would move on page 2, line 11, after program, strike that meets the following conditions and insert approved by the board that at a minimum requires passage of a subject area pedagogy examination, comma, U.S. Constitution examination, comma, and Wyoming Constitution examination, period. And I'll come back to that to get the language right, but I want to get the rest of the amendment. Then I would strike the remaining balance of page 2, so 14 through 23. Then on page 3, strike lines 1 and 2. And that would be my amendment.
Okay, could you read it one more time?
Yep, so line 11, page 2, after program, insert approved by the board, comma, that at a minimum requires passage of a subject area pedagogy examination, comma, U.S. Constitution examination, comma, and Wyoming Constitution examination, period.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, go ahead, Senator.
question for the bringer of the amendment. How close is that to what we passed in 2023?
Senator?
Madam Chairman, it's the exact same amendment as 2023. The only difference is I added in the U.S. Constitution and Wyoming Constitution.
Yes, go ahead, Senator Rothfuss.
So in the 2023, the E paragraph was rolled in,
Yeah.
and then the language was also struck. I don't know if the good senator wants to do that also. So it would be issuance of an alternative certification under, and it's this, I think it's under, just shall only be, okay.
Yeah, I saw that in the 2023 version, they combined the E and the D paragraph.
Yeah.
I think it can stand alone, can't it? Or what's your concern about it being alone?
I mean, not any particular, other than the fact that it probably is easier to just have it as one standalone D
Okay.
paragraph.
Yeah, I'm okay with
Since
that.
it's consolidated, so that would be amending it so that it reads issuance of this alternative certification. And then,
Strike under,
yeah, under subparagraph D of this paragraph, shall only be for the subject or shall be limited to the subject is fine. So issuance of an alternative certification of this alternative, yeah, that was how it was changed. Issuance of this alternative certification shall be limited to the subject areas and grade levels successfully completed by the applicant. So strike the E if that's friendly.
yep, that's friendly.
Ashley, did you happen to get that, or do you want
I
Senator
do
Rothfuss?
believe so. If it's all right with you, Madam Chairman, I'm gonna read it back to you.
Okay, go ahead.
So on subparagraph D, we have alternative certification of teachers that requires a baccalaureate degree from an accredited college or university and successful completion of an alternative certification program approved by the board that at a minimum requires passage of a subject area pedagogy examination, U.S. Constitution examination, and Wyoming Constitution examination. Issuance of this alternative certification shall be limited to the subject areas and grade levels successfully completed by the applicant.
Correct? Yeah, go ahead, Senator Rothfuss.
Madam Chairman, it's close. It's a subject area and pedagogy examination as opposed to a subject area pedagogy examination.
Subject area and?
Yeah, so you've got two different examinations there. You've got a subject area examination and a pedagogy examination.
I put a
basically.
comma there,
Okay, subject area,
comma.
comma, pedagogy. Is it and?
That's what I
How's
heard,
that
if it was
structured?
and.
Well, the and came at the end of between the US Constitution and Wyoming Constitution. So it should,
Sorry, I'm not
Senator
lit up.
Olson.
So it should probably read that a minimum requires passage of a subject area examination, comma, pedagogy examination, comma, US Constitution examination, comma, and Wyoming Constitution examination.
And you could, that's clear.
Did you get that?
Gotcha, thank you.
Okay,
And then, Madam
Yes, go
Chairman,
ahead,
if I may
Senator
just
Olson.
speak to my amendment.
sure.
I hope Senator Larson is gonna be okay with this. I don't know how you felt about the 2023 version. I wasn't following it, because I didn't see it on the House side because it didn't make it out of committee. But I will just say that I have heard concerns about, alternative licensure and wanting to have a broader system. I've heard that today and I've heard that in the past, so I'm trying to find a vehicle to do that. I have a lot of concerns with crafting legislation specifically for one company, and that's what this bill appears to do. So I'm trying to alleviate that, but still have a vehicle that gets us where we wanna be, Madam Chairman. Thank you.
Senator Larson, any comment on that?
Madam Chairwoman, can I comment a
Sure.
little bit? But yes,
Even though we-
I agree with you. I think it was a proper amendment. I would just ask if we could maybe consider a little bit addition to that, if that's possible.
Actually, I think you could probably do that as a committee of the whole amendment if you have something else. Because we have,
Okay.
shut down public testimony. That's my ruling. Any other discussion on this amendment? Okay. With that, let's go ahead and vote on the amendment from Senator Olson. All those in favor of that amendment, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No? Okay, that amendment's passed. Any other amendments on this bill? Okay. Let's go ahead and take roll, Ashley.
Madam Chairman, on Senate File 86, Alternative Teaching Certificate, do pass as amended. Senator Brennan?
Aye.
Senator Olson?
aye.
Senator Rothfuss?
Aye.
Senator Scott?
Aye.
Chairwoman Schuler?
Aye.
That is 5 ayes.
Okay, that bill is passed. Senator Larson, we'll look forward to you bringing it to the floor. And if you have further amendments, just, start working on them. All right, next bill for our consideration is Senate File 109, Open Enrollment Within Wyoming School Districts. And I believe this is Senator Brennan's bill, so we'll turn the time over to her.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. What we have before us next is Senate File 109, Open Enrollments Within Wyoming School Districts. This bill has come about just talking about giving parents more choice within the schools in our school system and our school districts. So if you will turn to page 2 and down on lines 16, what we're basically asking is that school districts will adopt a policy allowing pupils to enroll in any public school within the pupil's resident school district. We do leave it fairly open. We do ask that preference be given to the school closest to the student, and also that if there's a sibling that's currently attending a school, that priority be given to the schools. This would start in school year 2026, as we feel like school boards would need time to get this policy in place and gather the correct testimony to see, because each school district is going to be able to make policy based on what their school district's needs are. And that is basically the very down and dirty of the bill.
Questions for Senator Brennan?
Madam Chairman.
Yes, go ahead, Senator Olson.
Senator Brennan, I just have a question on the preference or the priority shall be given to pupils who have siblings. I get that. But I think, like in my district, I think one of the preferences that exist as well is if you have a parent who is a faculty member and this would be specific to the school. I think that's a preference that they lean towards. I don't know if you thought about I don't know if there's other preferences or how you came about deciding that it should be just limited to this.
Senator Brennan?
Sure. Chairwoman Schuler and Senator Olson. In drafting this bill, we wanted to make sure that those were two things that were within the policies that the school districts have, but it doesn't, there's nothing that says that that couldn't be something within the policy of a school district. So we wanted to make sure that those two things were priority for the school district, but beyond that, they can put those other things in should they desire. So striking a balance between asking for this open enrollment policy, but giving enough flexibility within each school district that they can craft that policy for the best of the district.
Okay.
Other questions? Yes, go ahead, Senator Rothfuss.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. You know, when we talked about this previously, one thing that didn't come to mind was a circumstance. There's a form that a parent would fill out. What if they don't fill out the form? What school does the child go to? Do they default to their neighborhood school? That just occurred to me as I was reading it. I don't know the answer to it.
Senator Brennan, any ideas on that?
Chairwoman Schuler and Senator Rothfuss, that is a great question. We can either amend this or we can allow the school districts to put in their policy what they would like to default to. I mean, I would think that you would default then to the school closest to you, or you could default to a school that had the most room in it.
And Madam Chairman, I think that would be my concern. I think defaulting to your neighborhood school is going to be the least intrusive, and you have a lot of people that really don't do a great job of filling out their forms, honestly. And this could be consequential where, as you indicated, if the school district made a policy, all right, well, now here we have 100 kids that didn't fill out their form. We've got a little room over here. Let's put them in that school, which is 8 miles away, and let's put a little over here. So maybe language that says they would, in the absence of form, they default to their neighborhood school might be handy.
Senator Scott?
Madam Chairman, it appears to me that this is very close to the policy that we have in the Trona County School District. My question is, it says on the bottom of page 2, priority should be given pupils who reside within the school attendance area. Our system has been criticized for not doing that. And is this language make this proposal materially different from the Casper proposal? I think it probably does, but I'm not sure. I think probably that's an improvement, but I don't know exactly what the priority is going to mean. I expect that's going to be up to the local school district.
Senator Brennan, anything that you might know about that?
I don't have complete, clear answers. I think as far as how this interacts, I don't think it does, but maybe gives a little bit of a clear direction of that we want this one to be a priority. My understanding is that they try up in your district to give priority to things, but I know that sometimes that doesn't. So this would give kind of a clear direction that priority would be given to the school closest.
I have one question for you, Senator Brennan. On page 4, those are the exceptions, and it talks about no school district shall be required to establish or offer any particular program if it's not one offered. So for instance, if I was a student, I'm just gonna pick East High, if this moves forward, and South High has a technical program or trade program over there that they don't have at East, would they still be available to be able to go to that school and just take that one class? I think they do that in Casper, but I just wondered about that with this.
That would be the intent.
Okay. Other questions for, I'm sorry, cut you off. Senator Olson?
I've always been curious about this. This could be answered by Senator Scott as well, if you know, but I've always been curious how it works with busing schedules when I've always wondered how that works in Natrona County. When you, from year to year, it could be very different. A student could go to a school one year and then go across town another year. And how does that work with busing?
They have worked out a very elaborate schedule, Madam Chairman, that, of busing that does accommodate the school choice. There are, I think, some exceptions in Natrona County where if you're too far away, you may have to transport the child yourself, but that's been rare. I have seen it, but it's been rare. That's one aspect. I'm told they're not particularly more expensive in busing than other school districts, but I don't know whether that's true or not. But there's a central place near Park School where the buses come and trade kids on quite a scale. And they seem to be able to make it work.
So then to Senator, sorry, Madam Chairman,
Go ahead, Senator.
to Senator Brennan, then how does your bill address that, or would that just be left up to the individual policy of the district?
Senator Brennan?
Thank you for that question. Yes, so as Senator Scott said, Natrona County has a very, they have come up with a very cool, I think they call it a spokes and wheel, where they, spoke and hub, where they do exchange students. My bill does not address exactly how a district would do busing, as, again, I felt like that was something that we could leave up to the districts. I did reach out to several different places to try to find out what we knew as far as the cost of busing before Natrona County was open enrollment and after Natrona County was open enrollment. And because of the way things progressed, there just is not anything clear on their busing price. Nobody believes that their cost of busing is more. So a school district could choose to adopt something like Natrona County, or they could choose to say you have open enrollment, but we're not gonna bus the kids if you wanna go to something outside your closest school, or you would be bused. Currently, the bill does leave that up to the school districts.
Any other questions for Senator Brennan? Okay, let's open it up for public testimony on this bill. Anyone that would like to testify, please come forward. Senate File 109. Welcome back.
Thank you. Excuse me. Good morning, Madam Chairman, committee members, Dickie Shaner, speaking on behalf of State Superintendent Degenfelder this morning. Superintendent Degenfelder is a product of Natrona County Public Schools and grew up in a school choice environment like this bill proposes. So she is in support of this legislation. And I also wanted to mention too, Madam Chair, that I just emailed the business manager in Natrona County with Senator Brennan on it to talk about that question of whether the priority would interfere with what their current practice is. And we can get that information to the committee when he responds. But we have leaned on him quite a bit to learn about how they've done this.
Questions for Mr. Shaner? Okay, thank you. Anyone else that would like to testify on this bill? Welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Madam
How
Chairwoman.
you doing?
Tyler Lindholm, State Director for Americans for Prosperity here in the state of Wyoming. Appreciate the opportunity. We're really fortunate here in the state of Wyoming that we do have an Natrona County that's been doing this for, I think, a little over 20 years successfully. It is working, and a lot of the counties in the state of Wyoming currently dabble some form, what have you. I think this is a great directive from the state that this methodology and modality works, and it does provide that choice option. On and in favor.
Questions for Mr. Lindholm? Okay, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Anyone else would like to testify on this bill? Please come forward. Welcome back.
Madam Chair, Brian Farmer, Wyoming School Boards Association. First thing I'll tell you, no shock, my boards believe that this is a decision best made by local folks. Casper obviously has chosen to go this direction. Many other districts, such as Laramie County School District Number 1, do have attendance area waiver policies in place that allow students to go to different places. So for example, a student that wants to attend a CTE program that's available in one of the high schools here that's not in the other can waiver over to that other high school for that purpose. So those do exist. But I think more broadly, our concern really comes to the last discussion that you've been having, and that is the discussion about transportation. And so part of the difficulty in figuring out how do we make this work is thinking about transportation. Part of why Casper works is because Casper does have a central transportation hub. That's an additional facility staffed by additional individuals with additional bus routes that come to that central transportation hub. When I was first elected to a school board a long time ago, this was an idea that really intrigued me. This was something that I kind of wanted to do for my district. But as we explored sort of the cost element, we became very concerned about what that cost would mean. Cost is borne by the state today, 100% for transportation. So do we know what it'll be? No. Your fiscal note tells you this is indeterminable because we won't know until we do it exactly what it's going to cost. But if you can imagine, kids now, instead of having to be picked up on routes that are designed for their local school, are picked up from all over communities, brought to the central hub, and transported then back to their school of choice. Part of that choice certainly does mean longer bus times for kids as well. And so that becomes another concern that we have. So really our concern is around that transportation, that cost element. Certainly hope that if the state is going to mandate a practice like this, the state is going to be willing to fund those transportations hubs for communities that need them, that don't have them. With that, I'd either be happy to pass to Dr. Brown or answer questions.
Any questions for Mr. Farmer? Okay. Welcome, Mr. Brown.
Madam Chair, Boyd Brown, Executive Director of the Wyoming Association of School Administrators. I want to talk a little bit just about practicality and kind of where everything's at. I think if we're going to pass a state statute, it needs to be fairly broad. Having worked in this district and also in Campbell County, there are ways to ask the district to send your student somewhere. And also, when you're in one of the larger districts and students aren't born in geographic age appropriate levels. So we wind up clustering students out. So you have too many students for some schools, so they'll go not to their neighborhood school, to another school. You have to figure out all the priorities for waivers or attendance area boundary request changes. Just trying to make sure that you have a balance. We can't overfill some of the schools, so it's not as easy as it would seem whenever you look at it. Even in Casper, a lot of students don't get their first choice at times. They have to go on to their second choice. So again, I think it needs to be broad. If you're going to make a statute, that the district has to have a policy. I know that in both in Campbell County and here, we did not have a specific policy that was very rigid. That was left up to administrative rules that we also took to the school board to talk about. So it didn't happen in the dark, but it's not an easy puzzle to fix. I do believe that Casper has done a good job with being able to do the transportation in both Campbell County and in Laramie 1. Parents had to bear the cost of getting their student to that alternative school if they didn't go where we had bus routes that would take them. So I think it's not, again, I'm not against school choice, and in every district except for Claremont, which there was only one school and 98 kids. I mean, they didn't have many other choices. Although we did have students that came from Campbell County, we also had students that came from Johnson County. And again, on the other side of that, we allowed students to go to Campbell County or to Johnson County as well. So I think districts try to do the best that they can with each one of those students, but boots on the ground, this is not an easy problem to solve. It was a 3 to 4 day problem when we sat down with attendance area requests in Cheyenne to try to figure that out with all the principals across the district, trying to balance out the number of sections. You can't have 35 kids in one section and 2 in another section in another school. So just trying to figure all that out. It's kind of a Rubik's Cube, and I think if you're going to pass a state statute, it needs to be pretty broad and just requiring a policy. So with that, I'll answer questions.
Questions for Mr. Brown? Senator, go ahead.
Yeah, Madam Chairman, Mr. Brown, I understand that it's definitely gonna take some work to make this work in a county that hasn't been operating under this principle for years, but I think you said this, but I want to be sure that you agree that parents have a fundamental right to send their kids to any school that they want to.
I think they have the right to request that. Whether we have the room or not, I couldn't tell you. Even in Casper, like I said, they do a great job with school of choice there, but some students do not get their first choice, some don't get their second choice, in my understanding.
Sure.
Follow-up?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Other questions for Mr. Brown? Okay, thank you so much. for
Madam
your
Chair, could
testimony.
I offer one additional comment?
Sure.
I do just want to thank the sponsor for the discussion on capacity. That's a really important piece of this, the pieces that are in the bill about capacity, because ultimately, complete open gates could lead to real difficulties. But when schools do hit capacities, then overburdening them with additional numbers can be real challenging.
Yes, go ahead, Senator Rothfuss.
This might be a question for both of you. You know, based on those concerns, what solutions could we put in place in this legislation that would provide remedies? I mean, we've got transportation, we've got some of the concerns that Mr. Brown talked about, with the fact that, you know, some years you have a bumper crop of kids seeming to go through the grades. How would we remedy those things through language?
Either one of you, if you have an idea.
Madam Chairman, Senator Rothfuss, I don't think that it's a policy. I don't think you can write a state statute that will take care of that. I think just allowing districts to work through that process and having a statute that says that's allowable in the districts. I will tell you that there were times when we were busing sections of students out of their attendance areas because we didn't have capacity. Not that we wanted to, but that's just how we are. You know, communities turn over, so you have communities that have high-end housing, probably don't have as many young kids, and then the older, nice housing becomes where people can find affordable housing. So it seems like the community turns over as to where those young kids will grow up as well. So it's very difficult to plan. It's probably fairly easy to plan, and you can get the information about how many kids you can expect per house or per apartment, but to try to figure out what age they are is very difficult. We wish we could do it. That's a long answer to say I don't know.
Okay. I don't know if Mr. Farmer has anything.
Did you have a follow-up? Sorry.
No, that's it.
Okay.
Appreciate that, Mr. Farmer.
Madam Chair, I would
sorry.
add to that response. I think there are two ways of looking at it. One is if you want to be direct that the state will provide the transportation, then I think there is language that would need to be added to this, saying that the district shall provide transportation to those students. In the absence of that directive, it would appear that the district has the ability to determine that in crafting its own policy. And so I think that's the case. But Senator Rothfuss, I think you hit on perhaps a similarly concerning issue, talking about the form and the sort of, how do we determine? I think in the Casper situation, the first priority goes to kids within the residence area. So you can certainly have the possibility where kids within the residence area fill up the school, and there is no more capacity. So if we have the case here where you fill out a form, then it could be that it's first come, first serve. So whoever fills out the form first, and so I could live a block away from a school and the school be out of capacity and I have to go somewhere else. And so that becomes another concern. Again, to the degree the legislature wants to be directive about that, you could provide that direction. In the absence, again, I would feel like that would be a local district determining that with their local policy.
Madam
Just follow
Chairman,
up? Go ahead.
Follow up on that. So we have, the legislation has school attendance area in it, which means you're going to draw pieces on a map. The other concept is, what is the nearest school to you, so to speak. I assume that's logistically more difficult, but probably more intrinsically fair. Is it too logistically difficult if it simply said you have a preference for your nearest school?
Do either one of you want to answer that?
Madam Chair, that can be difficult in large communities. They talk about categories for safe ways to school, and I know that they work with transportation folks, and so you could conceivably have a school that is in raw distance closer, but if it crosses a major roadway or something like that, it may not be the zoned area of resident school because it requires students to pass an unsafe condition in order to get to school, where they could go to a second school that's
Sure.
a little bit further, but
It's just on the other side of the interstate, Madam Chairman.
There you go.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yes, go ahead, Senator.
Madam Chairman, this has been, frankly, we're talking about what has proved to be, I think, one of the strengths of the Casper system. It is much more flexible in terms of adapting to shifts in the school population than a more rigid attendance area. And part of it has been that as the families with young children move to the periphery of the community, those schools get overloaded, and the schools in the more inner city get depopulated. And one of the things Casper has done has been to get specialized programs in some of those inner city schools that attract kids in that want to go to a whole language Spanish immersion program or some other specialized program like that. And the choice system has really accommodated that quite well and has alleviated some of the pressures as populations of children shift. So I think if you leave the districts quite a bit of discretion as to how to do it, as this bill does, you will find that you have a partial solution to some of those problems that is much less contentious than making formal shifts. You do have to, on the transportation, I think you have to leave it broad because that is so much going to be a product of the nature of your community and the physical geography of your community. And again, this bill does do that. You do have to have the option, and Casper does exercise it a little, of saying, okay, if you really want your kid to go to that school, you're going to have to transport them. I've seen that in action.
Yes.
So, Mr. Chairman, the system is more flexible than the other one, and it's been one of the strengths of it.
Senator Rothfuss.
Kind of a question for Senator Scott based on that. With the boundaries and with the special programs, I know that there are a couple of DLI schools and there's some other programmatical schools. Does the system in Casper provide, how does it relate the priority of student registration to the program? So I've got my neighborhood school kids that want to be there because they're nearby, and then I've got some students that that want to be a part of the DLI program, and then maybe I've got some other students that just want to hang out there but don't want to be in the DLI program. How do they respect that your DLI students need to be engaged in the DLI program at that one specific school?
It depends, again, in some cases, your specialized program, and there are a number of them. Some of them are quite rigid, formal instruction. Some of them are very loose, multi-graded things, and they both seem to work pretty well. The school district or some of the programs have imposed requirements on the parents for parental participation, which have been quite valuable, but do discourage some parents from sending their kids to those schools. I'm not familiar with some of the underlying regulations. The complaint I've heard is that sometimes a child can't attend their neighborhood school, they
Yeah.
didn't sign up in time. Or when they moved into the neighborhood, that school was full. Some of that is probably unavoidable.
Well, Madam Chairman, and on that point, I could see a situation where you had a neighborhood school, again, using DLI, where you have a course of study, you know, you start when you're a kindergartner basically and go through, or first grade, whatever the case is, you're kind of on track for DLI. So in Laramie,
DLI.
oh, sorry, dual language immersion, that's the
Okay.
immersion Spanish program that you have, and you have Chinese also, I believe, in your district. But you're on a track for that, and in Laramie, we have one school at this point in time, which is the DLI track school. And so it's a neighborhood school. A lot of people are going to it because it's their neighborhood school. But the whole community is lotterying in to the DLI program, and then you're on track and you stick through it. And this gets back to your neighborhood school comment. There are far fewer neighborhood seats in that school than the school can handle, because priority is given to the DLI program taking up half the school, basically. For Slade, half the school is DLI and half the school is kind of neighborhood. I don't know if there's an algorithm your district uses for that, but I think we need to be sensitive to that if we're giving priority to the neighborhood and you fill the entire capacity of it with kids that aren't in the DLI program, what do?
Madam Chairman.
Yes, go ahead, Senator.
Going beyond the language immersion programs, we have some schools that have particular kinds of instruction. And the Casper, there's a classical academy. There's Wood School, which is the opposite approach. And those, if you go to that school, you're in that program. No division at all. I think the language immersion programs tend not to be the full school. So there are differences among the schools depending on what the approach of the school is. And some of them, a neighborhood kid has to want to go to that program, or they need to go somewhere else. The school district needs the flexibility to do it both ways. And I think this language with the priority
Takes care of it.
would allow for that.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to testify today on this bill? Okay, with that, we'll go ahead and close public testimony. Was there a
Madam-
couple people? Oh,
Madam Chairman, you
stand
do
up.
have one online as well.
Okay, well, is there anybody else in the room? Did I jump too soon? Okay. All right, let's take the online person then. Go ahead, whoever it is.
Madam Chairman, I'm letting Alice Kirsch into the room. She's joining now.
Okay. Welcome. We're running a little short on time, so keep your comments short if you could, but please introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Good morning, Madam Chair Schuler and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify this morning. My name is Alice Kearse and I represent Yes Every Kid. We are a nonprofit dedicated to creating an environment where every child has access to an individualized learning experience. And on behalf of Yes Every Kid, I would like to express our support for Senate File 109, which seeks to expand public school enrollment and is a positive step towards empowering families and increasing educational opportunities. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Wow, you did keep it short. Any questions for Ms. Kersey? Okay. Was there anybody else in the room that, thank you very much for your testimony, by the way. Is there anybody else that want to testify today? Okay. We'll go ahead and close public testimony then. What's your pleasure on this bill, committee?
Move the bill.
Okay, it's been moved by Senator Olson. Discussion? We probably beat it to death, but is there anything else? Go ahead, Senator.
Madam Chairman, I did want to make sure that we were, as I hear the concerns, a lot of it is taken care of just by giving flexibility, but I do think on the prioritization paragraph, including some language about participating in a school-based educational program as a priority would probably help to make it clear that that is another priority that's available. And then without ranking them or anything, it leaves the district the authority to make that decision. So I'd suggest on page 3 an amendment. And I'll actually start on page 2 to read the paragraph, or to read the sentence. Priority shall be given to pupils who reside within the school attendance area as defined by Wyoming statute, add a comma. Pupils participating in a school-based educational program, comma, and pupils, and then the rest of it, and pupils who have siblings currently enrolled in that public school. I'm not sure that's perfect language, but it gets at the intent of what we've discussed. So my motion is to insert on page 3, line 1, after the Romanet 2, a comma, and then pupils participating in a school-based educational program, and then continue the rest of it.
Ashley, did you get that?
I did, Madam Chairman.
Okay, discussion on that amendment. I think that's a good catch. All right. All those in favor of that amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Okay, that amendment is passed. Anything else on the bill?
Madam Chairman, the only other concern really was what is the default if nobody fills out a form? And I don't see a clear way based on the structure to do that. So maybe on committee of the whole, we can come up with a little sentence to add about that if you, in the absence of a form, you default to a submission for your local neighborhood school or something along those lines, or a continuation of your current school.
Great idea.
Would be necessary.
Okay, thanks. Well, with that, if there's no other discussion, let's go ahead and take roll on the bill.
Madam Chairman, on Senate File 109, open enrollment within Wyoming school districts do pass as amended. Senator Brennan?
Aye.
Senator Olson?
Aye.
Senator Rothfuss?
Aye.
Senator Scott?
Aye.
Chairwoman Schuler?
Aye.
5 ayes.
Okay, that bill is passed. Senator Brennan, we'll look forward to hearing more about it on the floor. We have 10 minutes. I don't know, Majority Floor Leader, if you want to take a stab at your bill. I know it's pretty simple. She talks fast. I think we can do it. So welcome, and let's take a look at Senate Joint Resolution 003. Welcome, Majority Floor Leader.
Thank
I
you,
guess-
Madam Chairman. Good senators, you have before you Senate Joint Resolution number 3. Knowing we're short on time and we need to gavel in, and we have a lot of work to do on second, third, and committee of the whole today. Good senators, this is a bill commemorating the 100th anniversary of Governor Nellie Taylor Ross, the first woman in the United States to be elected, underscore the word elected, to governorship in these United States. And that happened in January of 1925. And so this resolution, which I'm not going to go through, but will on the floor, goes through kind of a summation of her life and history. But primarily, this is a bill acknowledging another one of Wyoming firsts and how special Nellie Taylor Ross is. And really, the purpose here today that I want your takeaway is to overcome the misinformation about her governorship. Oftentimes, it's confused with the fact that she took her husband's spot. And whereas she did take her husband's spot in that he was on the ballot, she replaced him on the ballot and she was duly elected. He did not die in office. He died before the election took place, and she actually replaced him on the ballot and won by 10% of the vote. So I just want to make sure that is clarified, and I'll clarify that on the floor. Otherwise, let's celebrate another one of Wyoming firsts and the 100th anniversary of that first here today. Good senators, thank you for your consideration.
I knew she'd be fast. Any questions for Senator Nethercott? No? No, I think we needed this, and I'm really glad that you brought it, and it's a big deal, so thank you so much for that. No questions for Senator? Okay. You're off the hook. Anybody in the room that would like to testify on this bill? All right. I think this is, we should have put you first. That's what we should have done, but you know what? Then she would have had to have gotten up a little bit earlier, so that's why. Any other discussion? Okay. With that, if there's no public testimony, we'll close public testimony then and take roll.
Madam Chairman, did somebody move the bill?
Oh. Okay, yes, I guess we probably should do that. Any more comments from the committee on this bill? Okay, let's go ahead and take roll now.
Madam Chairman, on Senate Joint Resolution 3 commemorating Nellie Taylor Ross, do pass. Senator Brennan?
Aye.
Senator Olson?
Aye.
Senator Rothfuss?
Aye.
Senator Scott?
Aye.
Chairwoman Schuler?
Aye,
That is 5 ayes.
that's amazing that she did that in 3 minutes, so I wish all of our bills were as simple. Thank you so much for this, that bill is passed. All right, we will go ahead and adjourn, thank you. Wow, I thought if we left 10 minutes.